But even though New Zealanders don't understand ETS terribly well, most are generally in favour of what the government's doing, playing our part.
Yes, and sort of to a degree, that debate has been led by players like actors and people like this who enjoy being in front of the screen, but also people by Stephen Tyndall from the Warehouse, who actually imports a lot of stuff from China in the first place, which is made in a place which is highly carbon sensitive, and flicks it onto this market here, displacing, arguably, manufactured products which actually have a lower carbon component, because they're not all produced from coal-fired stations. I think, though, one of the issues that concerns me is the mega profits the state generators are going to make through all of this. Obviously will go back to the government, and in a way it is very much a de facto tax. If you're thinking about the productive sector here, agriculture is a large amount of the emissions profile, but so is transport.
But you're never going to stop the planet doing what it does, but you can improve the quality of humans' life on it. And the big issues are water quality and air quality. And yes, you need to deal with that, but don't fool yourself into believing that the boogeyman of the planet is going to have all of its ice caps melt and we're going to be underwater.
Well,
we have
had these cycles of ice ages and global warming before. I think the great hilarious thing at the moment is to think about those volcanoes, exploding volcanoes in Iceland, and another one expected to erupt if it does follow, the usual historical trajectory. Well, exactly. Mother Nature is doing it of her own accord.
So is Federated Farmers' campaign going to be successful? One word, Bruce.
No, because the political will of the people is that they want to be taxed, dopey though they are. Yeah,
and what about you, Fran?
Not in the short term, I think. But I think the interesting thing will be what happens about bringing agriculture within the scheme, and I think on that they'll probably be successful to a degree.
Well, they'll be happy with that if that does happen. Next up, we take to task or praise the movers and shakers in the ag sector. Welcome back to Straight Talk. Now it's on to you beauty, praise, or abolishing, the opposite. Now, Bruce, I believe you've got a beauty and a bollocking this week.
They're both the same person, and I guess once upon a time they were farming, but they're certainly not anymore. Allied Farmers deserves a complete bollocking for being so dopey as to buy the Hanover book, and deserves a bouquet for refusing to pay the final instalment.
What was the motivation behind that move? It was seen as a very unusual step to take at the time, wasn't it?
Desperation. They were completely screwed. They were going to go broke anyway. They'd attempted capital raisings and failed, so I guess figured if we buy 300 mil of paper, we might collect 10 mil, and that's better than collecting nothing. However, they also collected with it a whole bunch of aggravation, which has hemorrhaged their cash flow. Dopey, dopey, dopey.
So this should have come as no surprise whatsoever?
No.
No. OK. Fran, what's your view?
Well, I think just moving along from where Bruce is, I think it's a bollocking for the Securities Commission having sort of belted into poor old Alan Hubbard down in South Canterbury and put him in a fiscal straitjacket where he can't even, do anything within his own business, and obviously he has huge dairy interests and other farming interests as well. But to not actually just take the lever of this Allied Farmers fiasco and open it up and have a damn good look at Hanover, and in fact whether the Allied Farmers shareholders did get a fair suck of the salve when they bought that book, and what actually happened behind there. And one would expect, if they're going to be equitable in the way they treat major companies and potential vagabonds, they should be doing that.
Is there still the opportunity to do that, or time's moved on too far?
No, well, there's absolutely the opportunity to do it. It's an absolute example of how a moratorium hasn't worked in practice, and I think and also the actual deal. I think it's essential for the health of our markets that they do that.
Right. So what steps would we be likely to see from here on, Bruce? No.
I can't really comment.
He's recused himself now, going on the FMA board.
What would you expect to see, Fran?
Well, on past practice, not a lot, but I think they have to respond to the public mood, and the public mood is pretty antsy on this one.
Yes.
And also, I mean, let's face it, there must come a point where, you know, people stop being frightened by Chapman Tripp and other legal people, you know, basically trying to keep you know, the inquiry away from these guys who are basically just sunning themselves off in Hawaii, and that while everything just continues to turn to custard. It's just not good enough.
Because you've got essentially two aggrieved groups now, haven't you?
Yes, you
Hanover
have.
investors and Allied Farmers shareholders.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But don't forget the Allied Farmers shareholders have their anti-dilute options, so relatively they're harmless, provided the company survives. That said, if they hadn't done the deal, the company wouldn't have survived, so I don't feel much sympathy for the Allied shareholders because they were damned either way and they're protected on the downside. It's the Hanover investors who have been dicked royally.
Right, OK, fine. And with the Allied Farmers, John Lachlan is chairman. He's a very well-known figure in agricultural circles from being the chief executive at Richmond and so forth. Is there some criticism coming through at that level of things, that the company should have been much more up with the play and aware of what was happening?
Well, at the moment, of course, you know, they are attempting to frame the argument that things were hidden from them, and that's what we've seen around the, you know, potential court action and the failure, their failure or their refusal to pay this $5 million over to Hanover. It's going to be very interesting to see what Hanover does in response. But I've always thought, I was really surprised that the Hanover people went for that. It just shows people are fundamentally quite stupid. They had an opportunity to just, you know, have the thing liquidated in the first place. But actually, I always thought there was enough there for that to have been the perfect statutory management option from a way back, put Hanover into it. Again, it was a situation where right up to basically it starting to fall over, money being shovelled in the door, Richard Long's advertisements on television. I thought all of that was huge misrepresentation when clearly it was heading for the knacker's yard.
I have a very brief bollocking. That's for the New Zealand public. A survey in the New Zealand Gardener magazine showed their favourite vegetable was potatoes. That makes us seem rather unadventurous eaters, doesn't it?
No, there's plenty of ways of doing potatoes.
Do you
Potatoes
believe
are
that,
probably
Bruce?
one of our most versatile vegetables, provided you're not Irish, because they don't even know how to cook them.
Yeah. Well, let's give a
Are you Irish?
Yeah, let's give a you beauty to the potato then.
Yes.
Well, that's all we have time for this week. Thanks to my guest, New Zealand Herald columnist Fran O'Sullivan and Retiring Shareholders Association Chairman Bruce Shepherd. And thanks to you too for watching. We love hearing your feedback, so drop me a line at country99tv.co.nz. We'll see you next week.